This is session number 4, I believe. Today I want to talk about meeting and greeting dogs with you and a dog, and then dogs together meet and greet, which also stems about body language, and knowing body language for dogs is so important. So we're going to retouch some of the things that we talked about in orientation. You cannot know enough about reading body language. That will get you out of so much trouble, and so many of those shit moments that we have. Especially with rescue dogs. There's so many dogs that we have here on the property that they want to communicate with you. They want you to know what they're talking about, and what they want you, that's so distracting, what they want you to notice about them, what they're trying to say to you. I'm nervous, I'm not comfortable, oh, this was wonderful experience, all those things that are in there that they will tell you. And I've told you before, I want you to practice with your own dogs, with their body language. When you put a dog in the car, sometimes you think, oh, my dog loves car rides. Really? Are you sure? Are they plastered to the floor in the back seat because that's as far down as they can get to the ground? Are they panting? Are they drooling? Drooling dogs are really stressed. It could mean that they're going to get car sick. So watch your dogs and see if they're trying to tell you something, and you're assuming that they're happy to go for a car ride and they're just excited and ready to go, and actually they are freaking out because they're in this hot car and all this stuff's going by really fast and it's overload as far as what's going on in their environment. So I want to challenge you to watch your dogs when you do that, when you take them to the park. So in our class that we had, our orientation class, we had this doggy body language. And I want you to just keep going over it. And if you can go over it every day, that's still not enough until you know it really, really well. And when I started with rescue, I knew none of this. I thought I did. I assumed, because I thought of myself as being very observant, and I've been around animals all my life, and I thought that this was something that I knew, but it really, I had no clue what the dogs were really trying to tell me. So when you're meeting a new dog, and when you've got trying to do meet and greets with dogs, if you know this and you know it well, you will have an easier time of it, and you will feel more comfortable. So, a few things remembering about body language. Where's the tail set? Is it straight up and wiggling? That doesn't mean necessarily that they're happy. Is it down underneath them? That's terror. Okay, is it just soft and wiggling? They're pretty comfortable. This tail set will tell you what you need to do and what you need to know about how that's going. When we do meet and greets with people that want to adopt dogs, we always have 2 of us together and just see how it's going. And again, watching their body language when they're coming into each other and seeing each other. And if we're nervous, it's always smart to have a fence between the 2 dogs, just to make sure that there's not, nothing's going to happen that you can't control. Dog's ear language. Are they up? Are they back? Are they just, down? Are they relaxed? Where's their ears? They're going to tell you a lot where their ears are. Between their ears and their tail, if their ears are back like this and the tail is down like this, you're in trouble. Okay? Because they're just not happy with the whole situation. And when their tail goes all the way under and it's touching their belly button, that's stark terror. Okay? So think about all those things that you need to know about your dog and what they're trying to tell you. Go over that over and over. It talks about the staring. It talks about ground sniffing. We talked last week about when your dog goes on a walk, being able to let them ground sniff, because it helps with them to relax, and it helps them get some of that frustration out. If you always have them in walk mode, that's, it's okay for part of the walk, but they need to enjoy it too. And they may just get frustrated if they're right in training mode all the time. So let them sniff it out and get some of those relaxing. That's what they want to do. They want to go see what's going on as well. We all know what the play valve looks like. So think about those items that we've gone over as far as body language goes. I have a question over here.
How can I tell when a dog doesn't have a tail?
Okay. In fact, this handout that we have is a Boston Terrier with no tail. Okay? Why they use this, I don't know, because it does make it more difficult. I have a dog with no tail. I call him Wigglebutt. And actually they do very similar things without a tail. If they have no tail, their back end will curve down a little bit. Okay? You can tell a lot of tailless dogs with their ears, because usually tailless dogs don't have floppy ears, except for the Aussies. And you can see what's going on with their ears. There's always the panting, the big eye look, the drooling, how are they walking? Are they stiff? You know, are they hunched over? Or, you know, it's the whole body. The tail is just an indicator. But if they don't have a tail, you can still, if you really, really watch, and especially if you know that dog, you can tell what's going on with them. Even though they have a dull short tail, they'll still wiggle it. Or if they're not wiggling it, you know that they're not real excited, or they may just be relaxed if they're not wiggling it. But they kind of wiggle their whole butts when they don't have the tail. But look at the rest of the body, okay? Any more questions about the body language? Thoughts? Okay. I love my little dog. So I look at my notes because I don't want to forget anything. How to greet a fearful dog when they come in. And I do have a fearful dog in the car, which is going to be interesting. He knows me, and Mel's going to go get him, and I know he won't bite her, but he will be afraid. Oh, Mel. Sorry. Mel. Yeah, no, not on him. His name is Billy. He came to me, a couple years ago from out west. He was terrified. He was in a crate, just shaking. He was still a puppy. And it took me a while to get him out of his crate. We had to get him his shots and get him home and get him to be comfortable with his new environment. He's adorable. He looks like this little miniature golden. But watch his body language when he comes in. He's liable to bark at you. I have treats. One thing with fearful dogs, if you have treats and they're too fearful, they won't take the treats. That's a real high indicator of where their threshold is. We talk about threshold, and being under threshold means they're in a working situation where they can be comfortable. If they're over threshold and they're barking or they're too fearful, and one of the indications, especially with a treat-motivated dog, if they won't take your treat, you know that they're too freaked out, and you need to. Okay, so this is Billy, and he was too fearful to get out of the car with Mel, so I had to go get him. I'm keeping his leash loose so he can make decisions of where he wants to be. When you have a fearful dog, if the leash is tight, again, what we talked about, they're going to feel it all the way down the leash, okay? He is, look at his body language. Look where his tail is. Look at his ears. Okay, look at his tongue flicks. We talk about him flicking the tongue. He's trying to stay behind me, which makes put him, me between him and you. Now he's starting to get a little bit brave, but that's also a cutoff signal. Okay, that was I'm not sure what that was going on over there, so he's going to come back over here where he knows there's a safe mode because there's nobody around here. He's a little bit panting. Look at the way he's totally checking out his environment. What else do you notice about him? Think about body language.
He's sniffing.
Lots of ground sniffing.
Ears back.
Yep.
He's almost like he's crouching down.
Mhm.
Down to a little closer to the ground.
He's crouching down a little bit. He's getting down low. That's where he knows if he needs to make a break for it. He's got all 4 ready to go. He says it's really warm in here. Let's see what he does when I get closer to you. Lots of ground sniffing. I don't think it's that interesting in here, but that's a cutoff signal. Remember we talked about if they sniff the ground, it's easier for them to relax a little bit. They're also telling you they don't want any trouble. He keeps watching you guys like, what are you doing? You're not moving. Why are you all staring at me? What am I supposed to be doing? Keeping the leash loose so he can make choices. Billy. Billy. Come on. Good boy. Oh, good boy, good boy. Okay. So, this is Billy, and he's come a long way from where he used to be. Any questions, any thoughts about Billy? So when you have a fearful dog like this, and you're trying to meet a fearful dog, okay, when he comes in, okay, so I'm going to have Mel hold him. So when you're coming into a room and there's a fearful dog, okay, just pull him back. You're not going to come in like this to say hi. Why not?
You're too wide.
I'm wide, I'm threatening. This is not, or how about like this? You know, I should have a hat on and sunglasses and just totally freak him out. Okay? So when you come in to meet a fearful dog, you want to come in sideways and let him come sniff your hand. And kind of keeping him in your peripheral so you know what he's doing, but letting him sniff you and get to know who you are. And then you can also crouch down on your side so that this is not, I'm not being aggressive at all. And he feels comfortable. The leash is loose. He can get away if he wants to. He's going to sniff around me, see who I am, and just let him come to you. If he won't come to you, just sit there and hang out. Don't force it. If you go into one of our rooms in here and there's a fearful dog in the corner growling, don't try to approach him. Just hang out. You might have to sit in the corner, on the ground, or if you feel comfortable, or in a chair that's in there. And make sure you've got really good high quality treats when you're meeting a fearful dog. Because if you've got them, it gives them a reason to come see you. Okay? So let's say he's over there in the corner, and I'm going to toss him a high level treat, and he's going to say, maybe she's not all bad. Maybe she's okay. For 2 things, it's he's eating, he's getting a reward, he's sniffing the ground. The first thing you do is let them sniff the ground and let them sniff around you. You don't have to have them take it out of your hand right off the get-go. Take your time. I know time is hard out here because we don't have enough volunteers where you can go in and spend a half an hour to get to know a particular dog, because there's all these other dogs that need your attention too. But if you can, just spend time with these fearful ones and let them get to know you. Once they get to know you and trust you, they'll come up and they'll want you to touch them. And then remember what we talked about, the 5-second rule? When you have a fearful dog that comes up, you pet them for 5 seconds, and then you put your hand down. If they want more, they'll come see you. If they don't want more, they won't. And let them choose. The last thing you want to do is grab it and hug it to make it feel better. Not okay, because you got their face and your face right here. And they're most likely going to snap. They don't want to be in that tight, uncontrolled position. Let them choose how they're going to handle the situation. They'll come around pretty quick. I mean, it's amazing how fast they really do want to feel comfortable with you. If they're not, if they're trying to stay in the other side of the room, check your body. If you have a hat on, you have sunglasses on, what are you doing that might be making them feel not comfortable? Okay? Body language is so important when it comes to rescue. The more you know, the more successful you will be. With the meet and greets, it will help you stop fights. It will help you not get bit. And it will help the dogs come out of their fearful environment much quicker. Like I said, I've had Billy for a while now, and he actually walked the parade with us, not this last year, but year before last. But I had him paired with a confident dog, and he was right next to me with a confident dog, and he was able to do it. He wasn't real comfortable. It probably wasn't a good idea on my part, but he did, and he did pretty well. As long as it was, right now, he's got no other dog to kind of feed off of to see, is this okay? Is this, am I safe? So, when you have a dog, a lot of people, once you go get Miss Molly, meet and greet, okay? Where there's several different kinds of meeters. There's dogs that are frustrated greeters, as we call them. And they bark and bark and bark because they want to go see that dog right away. Or the guys out at the prison call them Tarzan greeters, because they go running up, they're showing all the bad body language, and the other dog that's getting run up on is like, I don't know if they're going to bite me, are they going to jump me, or what's going on with this dog? And they're typically barking and being really aggressive, if you think about it. So Tarzan greeters are really tough to work with. And then you have the dog that is very careful, shy, fearful, and may move back and bark at the other dog that they're trying to greet. Or like Sydney, when we had her introduce her to a family, we didn't know she was fearful of children. And there was no way that those little kids were going to get near her. And it surprised me because she's so good with people. And what her background is with kids, we don't know because they were strays. Again, they're from out west, so, they found them as strays. We don't know. Maybe they were harassed by kids. Maybe they were never around kids. She and her sister may never have seen a child before. And it might have just been a whole fearful thing in that respect. I'm not sure how Billy's going to do with this new dog that he's going to meet. What did you do, baby doll? Here we go. The dog that Mel is bringing in is a pretty mellow dog. She's fairly big, but Billy's used to being around large and small dogs. And this is why you don't leave your leash on the ground. Okay, this is typically not a good idea because you end up getting it all messed up, wrapped around things. So here comes Miss Molly. Watch Billy's body language. She's coming in, checking this out. Watch his body language. Don't watch Miss Molly because she's pretty comfortable with everything. Now he's moving in behind Mel. He's going to go get some information. Oh, she looked at him. Watch his tongue flicking. He's trying to gather information by smelling the air. Now he's running behind me. Okay, here she is. Now her head is kind of low. It's not up and alert. She's being very good with him. She's respecting the fact that he's a little bit fearful. She put her side to him. Notice that?
Yeah.
She came in and put her side. She's not looking at him. She's going to let him smell. She's keeping, oh no, she's like, okay, you want to sniff my mouth? And now she's walking away. She's okay, that was a little intense. I'm going to give him a break. He didn't walk away, so I need to. She's got great body language.
Oh, she reads him really well.
Oh, she's reading him wonderfully. Now she wants to come in for a sniff. He's like, I'm out.
Yep, the door's over here.
Oh, the door's over here. I'm going to sniff the ground and let you know I don't want any trouble. You notice he went that way and he started sniffing. He's not looking at her now. Okay, now.
Earlier, he always kept watching the door, like, I'm going to make
Yes,
sure I always know
yes,
where that door is.
exactly. And having the loose leash helps him know that he's in control of his situation. If this was tight, he'd be much more uncomfortable. Now he's kind of hiding behind me.
She's doing
Oh, she's doing great.
She's amazing. She knows what.
But I'm not forcing Billy to come meet her. Okay? He's allowing her to sniff him. She's doing lots of ground. He's doing lots of ground sniffing, telling her, "I'm not really excited about you." But look at the body language between both dogs. What are the things that you're reading right now? I mean, look at how far you've come by the stuff that you've known or that you've learned. Here, Billy.
And you're totally relaxed. We just don't even care, do ya?
Okay, so he's looking at me now, saying, "Okay, is this okay?" He went over there by those people. She's over there getting snuggles and lovin's. And I think I just need to stay here and sniff your shoe. So I'm going to walk over here a little ways. He stays. He's like, "Oh, were we going to get to go outside there a minute ago?" Smelled Mel. Hi, Miss Molly. The importance of a loose leash. I can't stress it enough. I see you. Okay, you want to take a break? You need to take a break, baby. Come on. Let's go over here. You go out there and sniff for a few minutes. So, observations. Thoughts.
Molly is just remarkable. She
Mm-hmm.
knows what she's doing. She's I don't know how to verbalize it well, but she's not really directly interacting with Billy.
No.
That's really good.
Yes. She understands he's got fear issues. And he's, she's respecting his fear.
Yeah.
He's like, this guy's got problems.
Earlier you were saying when they come head to head that that's rude in dog language.
Yes.
So each time when they do that later after they've greeted, is it okay then?
It's okay because
So
they're
the first
smelling
time
each other's breath.
Is rude.
The
but
first
after-
time, if they're running up to their face, that's rude.
Okay.
But once they've done this first and last name, and the greeting and
Then
the
it's okay.
sniffing around, then they go in to smell the breath because they want to get to know them more, just like they do with us.
What about when they lick?
Right. Another question.
What about when they lick the other dog's face?
That's kind of endearing. I mean,
Aren't they being submissive, I thought?
they kind of are. I mean, it depends. They might be upset because the other dog has goobies in his eyes, and they might be cleaning it out. It might be just simple as that, I'm not paying it. It's okay. So right there, when I was answering your question, I wasn't paying attention to Billy, which is not good for me because he might have been freaking out and I might not have been watching. So when you're doing this and you have a fearful dog, even though you're answering questions and you're supposed to give eye contact when you're doing that, I should have been watching Billy and his body language. When you take walks with your friends, you should always be watching your dog, especially if it has issues and it's fearful. Okay? But yes, licking your face. Billy does that to a dog at the house who's kind of an alpha boy, and he'll go up and lick his face. It makes him crazy, but it is a submissive thing, but it can also be an irritant. Depends on how the dog takes it. Some dogs don't want their face licked. They don't like it. They'll lick each other's ears sometimes, and you think, oh my gosh, that tongue is going all the way down. But and again, it depends on the dog. But they kind of groom each other depending on their relationship. I look at it that way. but I don't think Billy right now would allow her to lick him. It would be too scary for Billy. He'd think she was going to bite him. Now Mel is doing the silky leash, or the mind pull I should say, with her to try to get her coaxed back to where she is. Billy's checking this out going, huh, what is she doing? And again, he's still hiding behind me. Where's his tail set? It's still kind of low, isn't it? It's a little more relaxed.
Earlier he was relaxing quite a bit. His tail was getting looser, starting to move a little bit. But as soon as Kelly stood up,
Yep,
he stopped, looked, and his tail went back into
yep.
his
Back on alert.
back under. As soon as she stood up, he
Yeah.
became less relaxed, for sure.
So when she stood up, he became less relaxed and came more alert. There's an airplane over the top right now that's causing more stress to his environment. He's not sure what that is either. Any other thoughts or questions?
When they're stopped and they're looking at each other face to face and they're both very still, is that a marker for they're gonna fight or
It
what?
can be. It can be. And again, if you watch their body language, typically if they're face to face like that, if they're stiff, we usually mind pull them out and have them come out of it and coax them away. If they seem to be, hi there, Miss Molly. Oh, good boy. If they seem to be just kind of smelling and gathering information, then I'm just having a horrible time with this leash today. Then it's not as, you just, again, if you know their body language and you know the dog, you'll have a better chance of knowing, is that a fearful thing or not? If they're just meeting, I wouldn't let them stare at each other's face for more than 2 seconds.
When we first did it, she started to stiffen a little bit. That's why I pulled
Yeah.
her away
Yeah.
right at the beginning, because she wasn't quite ready.
What about when a dog, in the process of the meet and greet, one dog puts its head over the other dog's shoulder?
That I would not know.
Don't allow it,
because wanna come up. Good girl. That can be a dominance move, and it depends again on the dogs. If they're doing it to each other, they're trying to figure out who's in control. But it's also, it can just be, again, a real irritating thing. Shake off, okay? It's like, oh, okay, that was scary. Okay, so that was fairly easy meet and greet. Let me see if I'm missing anything. One, I think, when you do a meet and greet with the dogs, it is best to know who you're greeting and what their issues are, okay? So let's say we want to meet, we do this meet and greet. Melly knew what Miss Molly was like. I knew what Billy was like. I know Billy really well. And we kind of knew how it was going to go down. The more you know about the dog you're going to meet, the easier the meet and greet is, because then you kind of know what's going to happen. So gather information before you do a meet and greet, if you can. Dog parks, you can't gather information about any of the dogs there. You're just letting it go and holding your breath. And if you're meeting a neighbor or friend, or you're going to somebody's play yard or whatever, then you can manage that situation, and it's easier to have a successful meet and greet. I mean, you see so many people just go, oh, they'll work it out. Okay, well, how is that going to go down? Will they work it out? Will there be a fight? If you know that your dog is a reactive dog and knows that it just is the right introduction, they may be okay. Make sure you make the introductions correctly so they have the confidence to do another one. Just be really, really mindful. I mean, there's a lot of people when we do adoptions, and that's the scariest part, especially if they have a dog that's a little bit reactive. That's the thing that they're most uncomfortable with, is doing the meet and greet, because they don't know how it's going to go down, and they don't know how to do it properly. And so when Mel and I go and we put the dogs together, and it might be a 3-dog family, you only do one greeting at a time. You don't have all 3 dogs come running out to meet the dog. One dog at a time. That way you can both manage. Once they've met, I mean, right now I would feel comfortable taking her and Billy off leash, because I know there's not going to be any huge reactivity between the 2 of them. And then they can run around and kind of play side by side. Billy, you're killing me here. In fact, I'll let him do that now. But here at the ranch, make sure you know your dog. And meet and greets right now, we have it so that basically either Mel or I are involved with the meet and greets, because we do know the dogs, and especially the ones coming in out of the prison or the ones just coming in. We want you to learn, how to meet a dog and how to do the meet and greets. And so when we do meet and greets and you want to be involved, let us know so that we can, help you along as well with your training. It does make me nervous though when, we've got 2 possible situations with dogs that are reactive, and you're doing a meet and greet, and we don't know how that's going to go down. Let's see.
Barb, is there any one? I've just been among dogs that suddenly like a switch went off, like it looked like everything was going fairly well, and then something just snapped. Is there a sign? Because okay.
There's always a sign.
Okay.
Not always.
And 99% of the time, there's a couple of real subtle changes.
And Anika used to just do that with her mouth.
Yeah, just a little.
That's how much. You wouldn't
Yeah.
you can explain it.
Yeah, I mean the way you hold their mouth.
She
Okay,
dropped her bottom
just
jaw,
drop her bottom jaw this much.
snap.
That's all it takes, and then she is going to go. Sometimes they'll do their head will come up.
Okay.
It can just be so tiny, and it might be the tongue flicks that we talk about. I mean, they might have done a few of those, and it can even just be the slight difference in how they're walking. They may just be walking along, and then when their walk switches a little bit, it switches up. They may be in go mode, and it could just be a look from the other dog that you didn't catch, and that was challenging, and so when people say it was out of the blue, 99% of the time it was not out of the blue. It was just a very subtle body language, behavior, whatever you want to call it, that you missed. It might have been just a tiny little, I mean, we've had some that just like Mel was saying, boom, and the drop of the jaw, and it was just like, oh my gosh, and it can just be that subtle. But it's there, and that's why I challenge you to watch it, be observant. He's like, I'm out.
His tail's getting a lot.
It is.
so
He's off leash. He's going out there.
observe in case something goes wrong.
He's want to go see what Miss Molly's doing. There's a question.
I'm about to introduce Patty to a friend's dog who's going to come and stay with me
Okay.
as well. What my plan is to get together several times before the dog actually comes to stay and just walk.
Yes.
Is there anything else that we should do, or is that going to be sufficient?
Find a neutral area, not at Patty's place. Side by side walking is really, really effective. Okay, and so when we do side by side walking, you start off with the people in the middle and the dogs on the outside. Okay, and then watch their body language. And if the dog seems to be doing okay, I mean, we're talking plenty of time for them. If the dog seems to be doing okay, then you switch it so that there's a person in the middle and a dog on each side. So there would be dog, person, okay? And then you're doing that walking as well. And then the next one is when the dogs are side by side and the people are on the outside. But you don't have to have them right together. You can close in as they do better. Start way apart, and then as the walk continues and they're watching the body language and they're doing really well, then you can close in, and then it'll be fine. That's usually a great way to introduce dogs that you're not sure about, especially with little Patty.
Okay.
And you're in a neutral area, not in his neighborhood. You're not at a place where there's all kinds of stuff going on. I wouldn't go to Carrie Blake Park because there's kids screaming, and there's dogs barking, and there's ducks and all kinds of stuff going on. So find a place that's neutral, that is
Right.
mellow, and that would be the best way to introduce your dog to another dog. And then when you take your dog home, okay, let the dog that doesn't live there go into the yard first. Let them sniff around, then you let Patty in. Okay, same thing with the house. You let the guest dog into the house first, then you let Patty come in, and they get to see what she's doing. Okay, and if there's any growling between them, you get them back outside.
Okay.
Because the bigger the area they have, the more comfortable they're going to be.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Any other questions? That was a great question. That was a really good question. Any other questions? Who's that? Huh? What you doing? What you doing? Huh? Let's see. So we've talked about greeting people, dog body language, introducing other dogs. If you have a Tarzan greeter, sometimes, where the dog just comes running up, it's really helpful to do those kind of dogs through a fence. That way the dog on the outside, on the other side of the fence isn't, they've got a choice to get away if they want to. Sydney is quite the Tarzan greeter when it comes to the dogs. She just runs up to the fence and she's all excited. She's wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And which is okay as long as the other dog's okay with that. But it might not be okay for a fearful dog until they get and they run up down the fence line together and they get to see, what's going on, and the body language or the body usually softens, and then they're going to be okay. But it was really helpful if you're not comfortable with a meet and greet, or if it's just you by yourself to doing a meet and greet, to have a fence in between you. It just saves on the vet bills, because you don't know how that's going to go down.
So may I ask a question? I
Yes.
remember when Milo first came, he and Sydney did not like one another. Am I right in that? Okay. And then we heard something shifted.
Miraculously, something
Yes.
shifted.
Can you-
Okay, when dogs first come to the ranch, they are freaked out. Okay, so little Milo came from a home, Eastern Washington, long car trip, went to a home here that was like 2 hours, then he came here. His whole life had been shifted upside down. And it takes time for dogs to adjust. Okay, with Milo, he didn't understand why he's here. He didn't know any of us. He was terrified. Even though he liked people, he was pretty freaked out. And I know in his other home he'd been around dogs, and he'd been around at least puppies that we know of. But when he first came into Squim, he rolled 2 little dogs and pinned them to the ground because he was so freaked out. And I know as he got more comfortable, we were able to introduce, other dogs to him, and he was more comfortable with other dogs and all the volunteers. Then he got to the point he wanted to get out of his little doggy suite and go meet everybody. So like, I ain't staying in here. I'll figure out a way how to climb this wall and do a tightrope walk to get to where I need to go. And I think it was a matter of just letting him relax and adjust. And so having him meet, sometimes you wonder, well, why are we waiting so long to introduce dogs? And it's just because some dogs, especially like Milo, who's very intelligent, but also very active and a little excitable, very excitable. It took him time to calm down. And then you can reintroduce it. And that's why introducing dogs, again, before I forget, needs to go well, because if it's a bad introduction and there's a fight, the chances of getting them back together is slim. It takes longer, I should say. You can do it, but it takes longer. So it's really important, and I think that's why Mel and I are so careful about how we introduce the dogs that because we know if it's done right, the success rate is better. And it's so important that we have a good success rate because then the dogs can play together and they're happy and fun. We did Luna and Sydney last night when we brought Luna in because they knew each other from out at the prison. And so now Sydney and Luna can be together in a place. But, however, you can't play toys when they're together because it escalates Luna too high and then she'll become reactive and get too excited. So when Luna and Sydney are together, you just have to hang out with them and let them play and not engage with throwing ball or anything because that will just, and even sometimes with Luna, just rubbing her butt too much hypes her up too much and then she gets over the top. So you just kind of have to play, just keep mellow around her. But she's a lovely dog. Once she knows you, she's your bud. She's your bud. And she actually is pretty good with other dogs. Let's see. Breathe. I can't stress that enough. When you're stressed out and you're doing an introduction, if you're not breathing and not being normal and relaxing your body, check out your own body language because they're reading off of you. If you're not relaxed, then they're going to know it and they're going to think, oh my gosh, something's going to go down. Something's going to happen. I need to be on alert because something's going to happen because mom's really, really tense. And so you just think about yourself as well and reading your own body language as far as how you're doing the meet and greet. Okay, and if you see somebody that you're doing the meet and greet with and you see that they're being tense or holding their breath or just say relax, let's move around. Another important item is when you do a meet and greet, you have a tendency, everybody stands around and chit-chats while the dogs are playing. And then the dogs like to get in the middle of the group of people standing. And then it gets too tight. The quarters get too tight. Think about your environment and what you're doing to the dogs. And if the dogs are getting in there and some dogs are protecting your person because they're used to that person and the new dog's getting in there and then they start, tension comes up and you think, oh, this is going really well, and then you've got a fight going on in the middle of the circle. Think about it, and just when it's starting getting tight or when you're doing the meet and greet, don't be petting your dog all the time because they need to be able to know that, okay, so that other person can pet that dog. Just keep your hands away from the dogs or the initial meet and greet when they're off leash and let them figure it out. And then you walk away if it's getting too big and say to other people, oh, the circle's getting too small, we need to break up a little bit and walk away, okay? Really, really important. Just watching the dogs. And it's really easy for us to get caught up in conversation. Watching Billy, he's watching his total environment. Every step, he's like watching her over there. He's like, okay, I'm going to go outside. It's less stressful out there. Any questions so far? I think I was going to say, I think I've covered everything. Next week, I want to talk about demonstrating how to walk, and this is one of the reasons I want to talk about the body language, how to walk a reactive dog on a long line and how to help them continue to make good choices. Because they've learned the BAT program, Behavior Adjustment Program at the prison, and they've learned how to make good choices, but I want you, when you take them for walks, to help them continue to practice that. And I want you, so that's what I want to do next week. We're going to work with the long line. We're going to be outside in the field. I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that with all this, but it's really important to me that you know how to help them to continue to make good choices as a reactive dog. Because the more practice they have, the better they'll get at it, and then down the road, they may be able to not be as reactive as that they have been. It's just about practice. It's all about practice. And if you know what you're doing and what you're looking for, it's boring as all get out, but it's so, so helpful. So that's what we're doing next week. So practice your body language, play with the long line if you have one, as far as, you know, with your own dog, and so you're comfortable with it. And then I have a question over here.
How long of a long line do you normally use?
20, well, can be anywhere from, a 6-foot one is not considered a long line. These are 20 feet.
I have a 50-foot. That's kind of
That's
too
way
long.
too long, because that
Yeah.
makes it really hard to handle. I have a couple long lines that I can bring, and we have, I think we have a couple here at the ranch that you can practice with if you want to. Mel's got one. I think I've got a couple in the car.
I got a ton in the barn.
Okay, great. So practice, you know, take a long line home with you so you can practice. Mel, would you come here for a second? Real quick. I know she's getting really, really comfortable over there on the doggy bed. When you've got a long line on a dog, I just want to go over, you put it here in your hand. Okay, you're going to loop it one way, loop it the other way, loop it this way, loop it this way. That way, as you're letting out, okay, you're letting out, you're bringing in, and you keep it off the ground, okay? Just practice with that. And actually, this is online on Grisha Stewart's YouTube video if you want to practice. I think it's called Walk With Me, and she talks about it. But that way, it helps you not feel awkward when you're holding this great big line. It's wrapping around your ankles like I was doing in the video. and how easy it is when you've got a dog. If you're not paying attention, they're wrapping it around you. So practice with this, and we'll work on this next week.